Pá, isto agora... Estás a falar? Não. Não, não. Ok.
Obrigado, eu sou
Sim, não tem falhado nos últimos dias. Esperemos que não falhem este também.
Well, good morning, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. Shall we begin? Okay, thank you. So, energy plays a vital and extensive role in our daily lives, and so does water. At the end, we look at the bridges between energy and other resources. One of the most intricate connections is with water. Water is needed for renewable energy production, as is energy for water collection, treatment, and distribution. Besides, energy is spent to heat or cool water, and more recently, water surfaces and oceans are seen as potential renewable energy powerhouses, as highlighted in the outdoor messages that we can see in the wall. When we face water scarcity, priority is given to ensure water availability for human consumption, and often other uses faces limitations. As a result, in years of drought, renewable energy generation could be affected. Unfortunately, such phenomena is, as we know from climate change science, becoming more frequent and will continue so in the coming decades. Furthermore, the less water there is, the more energy we need to collect and treat it. Portugal is well positioned to lead the decarbonization effort. However, water scarcity may be one of the hardest challenges in the past to achieving climate targets. Therefore, we all need to cooperate and do our part. In this area, ADN participates in several European projects that explore water efficiency in various sectors, such as SMEs, hospitals, and cities. It is also responsible for the implementation of ECO-AP program, which aims to promote resource efficiency, including water efficiency, in public administration buildings. Also, ADN just launched E-Circular, a circular economy rating system that evaluates resource efficiency, including water efficiency and circular practices. And last but not the least, created Aqua Plus, a water efficiency rating system which evaluates the efficient use of water and the water energy nexus in the buildings. Aqua Plus is available for residential buildings and hotels, and currently is being expanded to office buildings. So, despite a lot is being done, we believe that it's not enough. To accelerate climate action, a lot more needs to be done, namely in the cooperation with other countries and sectors, mitigating current challenges and safeguarding policies linked, for example, to the agricultural sector or hydrogen production, ensuring food and energy security for the coming decades. Let us all take on the spirit of cooperation that brought us together on this event and take the outcomes of this discussion as an urgent call for action regarding the efficient and sustainable use of water and all of its nexus. Now I would like to draw your attention to a short film about the ADN Aquaplus rating system for water efficiency. And after the film, I will ask the moderator, Elder, to take the stage and introduce the guests for the round table. Thank you very much.
O turismo depende da água, nas suas mais variadas formas. Gerir a água com eficiência é uma necessidade para a transição energética e climática, a competitividade das empresas e o bem-estar dos consumidores. Sabia que 87% dos turistas procuram viajar de forma sustentável? E se pudessem escolher o seu alojamento com base na eficiência hídrica? Com mais hotéis da ADN, Agência para a Energia. Simples, ágil e voluntário, o Aqua Mais Hotéis avalia o nível de eficiência hídrica e identifica medidas de poupança para empreendimentos turísticos e alojamento local em fase de projeto, construção, reabilitação ou utilização. O diagnóstico, feito por profissionais qualificados, é um raio-x da eficiência hídrica do seu hotel. O Aqua Mais Hotéis é reconhecido pelo Turismo de Portugal no Plano Turismo Mais Sustentável como referencial nacional de eficiência hídrica e contribui para que Portugal venha a ser um dos destinos mais sustentáveis do mundo. Junte-se ao Aqua Mais Hotéis e torne-se um líder na sustentabilidade com uma gestão hídrica inovadora do seu hotel ou alojamento local. E garanta também uma utilização mais consciente da água, com conta, peso e medida. Aqua Mais, água na medida certa. Saiba mais em aquamais.pt.
Okay. We think that efficiency is at the core of what ADN does, and for sure, Aquamais embodies that for the water sector. We will be open for questions for sure. If you have questions about this specific program, ADN is developing. So, without further ado, we have with us here a great panel, I would say. We have Dirk from Water Europe. We have Antonio Ventura from ADP International. How do you like it? International? Okay. We have with us also José Pedro Salema from EDIA, and we have Francisco Ferreira from Zero. I will ask you, each of you, to briefly present yourselves.
Hello everybody, so my name is Dirk Krol. I'm the Executive Director of Water Europe. Water Europe is a multi-stakeholder association really covering the whole value chain of water, initiated by the European Commission about 20 years ago with the ultimate ambition of achieving a water-smart society.
Hi everybody, I'm António Ventura. I'm Executive Vice President at Águas de Portugal Internacional, and I'm working in the sector for the past 30 years and coming back from 18 years in operational companies to international again.
Good morning, everyone. My name is José Pedro Salema. I'm the CEO of IDEA, a public company that's responsible for managing the Alqueva project, responsible for the management of Europe's largest artificial reservoir, water reservoir, and an irrigation network that is over 2,000 kilometers long and serves 150,000 hectares of crops, amongst other clients like industrial and also public supply.
Good morning. My name is Francisco Ferreira. I'm the president of Zero. Zero is a Portuguese environmental NGO, and we work in several issues related with sustainability, but definitely energy, climate, and water is one of the topics where we do advocacy and where we actually work looking at the policies that are implemented by the Portuguese government and the legislation under the European framework.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this introduction. Zero, not to be mistaken with the Zero program from ADP. They are the ADP. They are different things.
They copied us. Exactly.
But in a good way. In a good. Okay. We know that the water energy nexus is. It's getting more and more complex, more and more intricate, as Ana Paula just mentioned. Today we talk about water energy efficiency, we talk about water for energy, energy for water, and even water energy food nexus. These are all challenges that are becoming more and more urgent to address. Water scarcity and energy storage are problems that we also need to address, and projects such as water desalination or green hydrogen production are planned to be implemented in Portugal. Nevertheless, these are energy intensive and come with considerable environmental impacts. Looking at such side effects, we cannot forget to bring to the table measures that enable water consumption avoidance throughout the main water, the sectors that consume more water. And with this, I'd like to, with this introduction, I'd like to first ask a question to António Ventura. You've been working on water projects worldwide and very strongly in Portuguese-speaking countries, namely in the development of new networks for water and sanitation. What type of innovation can these activities include that can take advantage of the water energy nexus?
Okay, thank you. Águas Portugal have assumed a strong and ambitious commitment to be neutral by 2030. So this program, with a mix of measures that we have seen just before, that goes from energy efficiency, where we expect to get less consumption of about 70 gigawatts per year, passing by energy production, where we expect to boost our energy production to 700 gigawatts per year by 2030, and finalizing in digitalization and of the energy management and the creation of a renewable energy community, will allow us to be neutral in our Portuguese operations by 2030. ADP International, as part of the group, follows the same ambitions. This means that ADP has to, with the learned lessons, consider this objective even in countries that are still far from achieving water and sanitation for all. This means that we must, in our projects, take into consideration the use of new technologies, and when they are appropriate to the territories and to the existing operation conditions, apply them to the systems that we are helping and assisting. This is not only to be implemented in the water energy nexus approach, but also in a much broader approach to the circularity of the water sector, especially when we take into consideration the importance of water to some of the new energy sources.
This is important, this equilibrium between what we have as innovation in our country and what other countries, the reality of other countries.
Yes, the geographies in which we operate, they are still not achieving the 24/7 hours of supply. They still don't have sanitation for all. So this must be taken into consideration when we make the decisions and when we tackle this objective. I think first we need to start doing the service, providing a service, a good service. The rest will come. In some cases, putting technologies where the supply chains are not good enough to supply with the materials needed to operate, this is something that will stop the objective. The main objective is the water and sanitation for all.
Thank you. And with this, I would turn to Dirk. Although this is not really the European reality, I would say, we know that in other countries that are still developing this service, financing is a big problem. So we need to have finance. And with this in mind, I would like to know your opinion on how can we take advantage of this water energy nexus to better finance this water efficiency and water infrastructure projects in, for example, these development countries, but for sure also in Europe.
Well, a first observation I would like to make is that the water energy nexus or the water energy food biodiversity nexus is, I would say, usually very well understood within the water sector. It's really part of the discourse of the water sector, but very poorly understood outside the water sector. So I think the first thing we need to do there is really communicate and make others understand about it. For a few years ago, I had a discussion with the CEO of Eurelectric, so the European Association of Energy, and he said, water? I barely, if I spend any attention to water, perhaps maximum 5% of my time. Yeah? So I think that's a real indication that we have some mission work to do. Now, about the link between, I would say, energy, water, and financing, I think what I always find a nice example is England. In England, they speak about the economic level of leakage. Yeah, and I think because leakage here is a very important point, and I think they have defined it at around 25%. I do wonder if they also include in that 25%, I would say, the cost of the energy that is being used, I'd say, to transport water, to pump water, to treat water. And I think if we would really give a good approach to, I would say, include all external costs in the production of water, including the energy that we use, I think it will become much more efficient to generate the funds to invest in the water sector and make sure that we have an infrastructure which is not leaking. That's the first point. Another point, if I can right now, I can make is look at the other side. We see that the European Union is making big investments in strengthening the strategic autonomy of the European Union. Yeah? One big project they have there is building the European hydrogen economy. Yeah? So they speak broadly about the hydrogen economy. They never speak about the water that they need to sustain that hydrogen economy. And then if you realize that you need 9 kilograms of water to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen, and you take into account that throughout Europe water scarcity is increasing, I think that's another strong case really for building and emphasizing that water energy nexus.
Thank you, Dirk. And to that point exactly, we know that scarcity is increasing, water scarcity is increasing exactly as you're saying. And then I'll turn to Francisco. we know that water scarcity is becoming more prevalent, mainly in the Mediterranean climates. And we have also, I would say, fortunately, good availability or a good potential of renewable energy. And I was just mentioning that in the introduction. We have projects. We have planned to implement projects of desalination and green hydrogen, as Dirk also mentioned. Should we also look, or how do you see these solutions integrating with the other solutions we also have? I mean, although relatively inefficient, can these infrastructures, I mean green hydrogen and desalination, be important for energy and water security?
Well, I think that we really need to have priorities, and that is one of the issues we believe is in many cases not fully within the cycle of water. And let me give you an example. A lot of people are concerned, why don't we dam all our rivers, letting that water go into the ocean? And it's clear that people do not have this connection between the importance of wetlands and estuaries and the need of water coming from rivers to assure the productivity of those ecosystems. So we really need a balanced approach on how to handle the different uses of water, and of course efficiency or having a perspective on circular economy for the water and optimizing the different needs under a scarcity reality that in Portugal is actually being more and more evident and clear, with huge differences between the different regions, particularly between the south and the north. You know, one of the aspects that no one talks yet about it, and I think it's crucial, is to talk about the price of water concerning the different uses. And one of the issues is that we in many cases, in many activities, we're not paying the right price, looking at all the impacts. And that becomes, you know, one issue, for instance, when we talk about green hydrogen. If we have water availability from a wastewater treatment plant, we know that it might be more expensive than having a desalination plant close by. But the truth is that we should use and treat that wastewater treatment, that wastewater, to actually give other uses, eventually a use for green hydrogen. That's one of the examples of the project in Portugal that we have for green hydrogen in Sines that will do that. So does it make sense for us to think about desalination plants for agriculture compared with using desalination plants that use a lot of energy for other uses, like when we don't have drinking water under conditions like in the south of Portugal, where we don't have sufficient rain and the dams are quite low, and the priority is indeed for people to use that water in the basic services and maybe not in industrial or agriculture activities. So I really think that in many countries we just need to really evaluate the priorities, the long-term priorities and the short-term priorities, have a price on water, and actually go upstream as possible to decide on what to do. You know, from selecting the crops that we use, selecting the type of agriculture, which is the one that uses the most, reduce the waste of water in different agriculture activities, which should be a priority. Also look at industry, also look at of the residential domestic use of water. So planning is key, adaptation is key, but price and the circular vision of water is also fundamental.
Thank you, Francisco. And I guess with this, we've mentioned it, the food sector, let's say, in the connection that we have between water, energy, and food, and you are just mentioning the selection of crops. And I think this is a good segue to José. And I think Edia, this is my point of view, you correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like a pivotal organization on this water, energy, food nexus. I mean, you have the water, you are producing energy, and you help the crops on that area to you provide water to these crops. So for sure, you have a central role in this nexus, more extended nexus. But what I'd like to ask you is how should the energy stakeholders look at the water, energy, food nexus? And Dirk was also mentioning that most of them are away from this topic. They do not look at this. But how should the energy stakeholders look at this broader nexus, considering the energy crisis and the impact it has on the agricultural sector?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. I will start by building up on what Dirk said about the nexus. And just to state the obvious, but we are not losing water to the stars, okay? The total amount of water in the planet is the same. We're not losing water. So sometimes we listen to people saying, oh, there's water scarcity, there's water scarcity. No, there's not water scarcity, there's energy scarcity. We are completely dependent on energy. If energy were to be abundant and inexpensive, water wouldn't be a problem, because we would just desalinate whatever, and we would pump whatever, and we could take the water everywhere. So the problem is energy. The problem is in some places it costs a lot of energy equals money to put the water that we want there. So this is the obvious, but sometimes we have to start there. Again, all the systems that we have to distribute water for public supply, for irrigation, require energy. We used to depend upon only the water cycle and gravity. Mr. Newton was our biggest helper, okay? We would put a dam in the mountains, and we would use gravity using a canal, an open canal, that was going in circles and reaching the farms. You know, Romans did it 2,000 years ago. This is how we used to do stuff. No? Okay, those systems were very water inefficient. So they were losing a lot of water. But we still use systems like that. In Portugal, we have still systems like that use only gravity. What the challenge is right now is, okay, we cannot lose water, because despite we're not losing to the stars, locally, of course, we have scarcity. We have local scarcity problems. And in the south of Portugal, we have them a lot. Not so much as in Dubai, but still, we have droughts, we have severe droughts, extended droughts, and so we have to hold water, and you have to be very, very efficient in the way you use it. So we have to put water inside a pipe. Inside a closed pipe, we have to cover our reservoirs to prevent it from evaporating a lot, and we have to use pumps, and those pumps require power. And if we want to be really, really sustainable, we cannot just be dependent on the grid and say, well, let the grid turn green, and so when the grid is green, I will be green, my system will be green. No, we have to do our own effort. We have to do our part, and our part is to produce the electricity that we need for our pumps. Like Antonio and Claudio has told before, like what they're doing, it's exactly the same for us. We want to have local production, local PV production, so photovoltaic production that is enough to feed our pumps and have a net zero effect on the grid.
Thank you, José. Indeed, what you just mentioned is it's an irony, right? That we are talking about water scarcity in Dubai. I mean, we in Portugal we do have water scarcity. Here they have it, I would say, a different level of water scarcity. Still, we have our reality. And I would say that it's funny how you probably started with, you called it obvious. I would say it's controversial, but then the nuances you were introducing made it more clear, and for sure this is true. So we do have an energy scarcity problem, and Zero project from ADP shows exactly that today they produce just a small amount of the energy they need, and they are aiming to change that. And with that, Antonio, I would like to know from this Zero project or Zero project that we just looked at before. You did said in your first intervention that we are some steps behind internationally, so in developing countries. But do you think that with the experience ADP Group will develop with this project, it will be possible then to make the bridge for these countries and help them in this way in more self-sufficient water distribution systems?
Okay, that's a good question. But we must not forget, and we must first take into consideration what are the true service levels in both water and sanitation that we are encountering. In a large part of the territories that we operate, populations still struggle to have potable water 24 hours a day, and they still struggle to have proper sanitation. So we are far from being on a level that water energy nexus is taking into consideration. People are still walking miles to get water, still open defecation happens. So this is something that we are struggling. And it was no coincidence that the United Nations at the Water Conference in March this year emphasizes the need to improve the achievement of the target set for SDG 6 as a way to leverage all the other SDGs. And ADP Group is an entity that is very highly committed to the ESG principles, makes that ADP International is also committed to this. And when we are working abroad, we carry these principles with us. So even if our first ambition is to be able to contribute in geographies in which we operate to an improvement of the metrics defined for monitoring the evolution of the achievement of SDG 6, ADP International takes all the group principles into account in all the contracts that we are engaged. So recently we decided to start monitoring the metrics to assess in which degree, in our words, we contribute to improvement of SDG 6 in these countries, the SDG 6 increase, and we have decided as well in the new projects to include measures that point the directions to evolution of the metrics related to these SDGs, and also the measures of the group circularity strategy, in which is included the Zero projects as we have presented a few moments ago. So the answers to your question in the more direct way is yes, we want to export in all our activities of the group ambition in all the aspects, and of course also the ones related to the Zero project.
Thank you, Antonio. Indeed, that's I'll say a wave of reality, a tsunami of reality that we are in different steps, and I kind of feel the need now to talk about water scarcities and not water scarcity, because there are very different realities of water scarcity. There's not one kind of water scarcity. It's for sure not universal. And with this, I would turn to José and making this link with the Zero project. And you've mentioned it in your first intervention as well, that dams their potential usage is becoming more diverse, let's say. So we're not talking about only having a reservoir of water, not only having turbines producing energy. We are now looking, for example, at floating PV, and I think Alqueva is a good example of that. This kind of approach maximizes the potential of this kind of infrastructure, mega infrastructure. What kind of innovations can we expect in this area, and how can this pave a new direction in the water energy nexus? So, do you foresee other usages of these infrastructure, and what can they?
Okay, thank you for the question. So from the ground up, the Alqueva project was conceived to be neutral. So the idea was to have a big hydropower at the big dam that would produce enough energy to feed up the pumps. This was a bit, well, we had a bit of a diversion, because we did a concession of the exploration of that big hydro to EDP, the Portuguese power company, which is not Portuguese anymore, but not an issue. But okay, we did that, and so we have the exploration of not only a very big dam that has a reversible power dam. That's also an interesting fact, that we don't spend water to turbine, okay? In fact, the water is the same, but it just moves from the higher reservoir to the lower reservoir when it's turbinated. Because later, it can take power from the grid and pump, using the same machine, pump the same water back to the main reservoir. So it acts, the Alqueva Dam, as other big hydro pump storage systems have in Portugal. They don't consume water, they just act as batteries. So they act as a sponge to other renewable sources, as PV or wind, and so they can take the surplus power and inject when it's needed. So that's a very big important issue or use for pump storage. The other that you mentioned is floating PV. Floating PV is a win-win-win-win, so a quadruple win, because first, you don't compete with land for putting solar panels. This is the first, very important in some regions, okay? Not so much, for example, in Dubai. Is you have a big desert, you can have large PV plants, not an issue. In Portugal, not so much. If you want to put a large photovoltaic plant, you have to cut trees, you're going to have problems with the environment, you're going to have problems with your neighbors, you're going to have problems with everyone. So it's a challenge to have lots of megawatts of power of solar panels. If you put the solar panels over the water, you don't have that issue. And at the same time, you are covering a reservoir that's evaporating. By covering, you are strongly reducing evaporation of that reservoir. Another issue for us is that it prevents or slows the growth of algae. Algae are a problem for water distribution systems because they clog all the filters, and it's an operational nightmare in hot climates. And the other very important thing is that when a solar panel is over the water, it produces more power than one that's over land because of the cooling effect of water. And so it's a very, very important strategy for us to use this technology to drive us towards the net zero. Our objective is exactly the same as ADP. In fact, we almost seem like the part of two members of the two groups, but we're separate entities, but we came up with the same objective, is to become net zero by 2030. We already have these floating photovoltaic plants. It's not an innovation for us. We've been using them for at least 6 years, testing the technology, and now it's completely mature, and we are launching important tenders. There are important tenders underway right now to build these systems more and more and more, and we will probably reach 55%, 60% in 2 years, and 100% by 2030.
Yeah, you did say that you guys have similar interests, let's say, and I saw Antonio smiling when you said that floating PVs produce more. He was like, that's why we're doing it. And you just said that you mentioned this idea of them serving as batteries, and I'll just call your attention that served as one of the one of the papers we have there, which is saying exactly that we have a giant natural battery. For sure, it has, I'd say, it raises other environmental concerns that need to be mitigated, but still, it has for sure advantages. I would return to something that we already talked about, which is the green hydrogen, and to Francisco, you've mentioned that this is all, we need to have an equilibrium, and we need to choose well the investments we make and balance those. Considering the high water and energy costs for green hydrogen, although you mentioned in your first intervention that maybe water is not well priced. What should be the priority uses of and which investments would make sense today?
We believe that hydrogen will definitely be an important vector for our energy system. There's no question about it. But it's like when we look at water, we need to make the right decisions. And for instance, if I have, let me give you an example with vehicles. It's much more efficient for us to have an electric vehicle than to have actually an electric car than an hydrogen car. If you go from the production, even from renewables, to the usage, if you use an electric car, you have a total overall efficiency around 70%. If you go to hydrogen, you will be probably around 30-35%. Because of all the conversions that you have and the transport of hydrogen and all that. So, but it makes sense for us to use hydrogen to get fuels for aviation or navigation or for heavy trucks. So there are some conditions where hydrogen will become the best alternative. And that's where we have to put our effort. Does it make sense for us to use hydrogen when electricity is the most efficient way forward? No. So the point is for us to choose the right option in terms of efficiency to actually put hydrogen in. And there are also another issue, which is let us use hydrogen to substitute some of the uses that we have with fossil fuels in the industry, or let's talk about new industries in the country to actually use this green hydrogen coming from our potential on renewables. We shouldn't, renewables, actually Zero also promoted a panel here yesterday about the conflicts between renewables and the environment, where we need to find our way to actually get an equilibrium and not, as you all said in the panel, space is limited. So we really need to look at solutions like in the Alqueva Dam, but even though those are limited, so we really need to select the best places and the best efficiency and the best use. So green hydrogen for us should not be looked as something that we want to produce more and more and more without discussing where will it go. In our analysis, it doesn't make sense to export hydrogen, even green hydrogen, if we don't fulfill the needs that we have for our country, where hydrogen, green hydrogen, is needed in many sectors, from transportation to industry to vehicles. So we really need a strategy that includes all this vision from renewables to the use, the most efficient use of hydrogen, and of course all the links with water, with efficiency, with the best use, and with the value added for the Portuguese economy, and the same with other countries. So, if you need hydrogen in Germany, and Portugal has a huge renewable power potential, let's export electricity, let's have the electrolyzer in the other country. That is much more efficient than actually to have a pipeline with green hydrogen.
Okay, that's a good point, and we've been focusing mostly, let's say, outside of cities or near infrastructures that are, in infrastructures that are outside of or far away from cities. But we know that cities, and I would say densification is a great way to achieve efficiency in many sectors. Let's say we know that you at Water Europe focus a lot on local action, and you give a lot of importance to this. In this context, how do you see the role of water reuse? And I think ADP also presented us the ambition of Portugal to increase the water reuse quite significantly, let's say. But how do you, Dirk, see the role of water reuse and more efficient water, energy, food links? And also, how do you see the role of digitalization as a tool to further improve this water reuse in cities as a whole?
Thank you. Well, I think first we need to I would like to remind everybody that, we're speaking here, we're at the COP28, and I think for most people it's clear that adaptation is mostly expressed through water, but also the water sector plays an important role in mitigation, because 2% of the carbon production globally comes through the water sector, which is the same level as the shipping level. I think that's an important point to remember. Now then, of course, we're reasoning very much from a European perspective that over the last 5 years we've seen a great emphasis on the European Green Deal with I would say, a transition to a green and digital economy. So I think it's very clear that digital solutions have a very important role to play. Then if we look at water efficiency, I think it's important to remember that the Water Resources Institute has predicted that by 2030 there will be a gap between demand and supply of about 56%. Yeah? So that's I think an important thing to remember, and that is something which we need to address for all the different uses of water. So domestic use, industrial use, use by energy, use by the ecology, use by agriculture. That is, I think, key to remember. Now at European level we have a now since 2 years regulation on water reuse. Yeah. But unfortunately, due to the, I would say, the internal mechanisms inside the European Commission, that regulation has been limited until now to only reuse for agriculture purposes. Yeah. I think if we really, which is of course very important, but if we really want to make also big gains, I think reuse for industrial purposes is also something which we really need to achieve. And most industries take place in an industrial, or in an urban context. I think there are also very nice examples already out there of what we call urban industrial symbiosis, where I would say industrial complexes take the effluent from wastewater treatment plants to, I would say, to include it in their processes as processed water. So I think that is an important element to take into account. Now, if I look at it very much from a Water Europe perspective, of course, we have our vision for a water smart society. One of the key innovation, and we have identified five key innovation areas to get there. One of them is what we call circular water, and I think that has two dimensions. That is, one is of course about the reuse of water, but it's also about capturing and exploiting the value in water. Yeah? And there you have things like metals, nutrients, and then we also come to, for example, an important issue which is like phosphorus. Yeah? Because sewage sludge is a major, I would say, source for secondary phosphorus. Now, unfortunately, for the moment, we cannot really use that, yeah, because as a secondary raw material, because according to the current European legislation, they look very much at the source of that phosphorus, not at the quality, and the source is from wastewater. Therefore, it cannot be reused for agricultural purposes. Yeah? So I think as legislation is also a major driver for change, that is really something we also need to look into.
Okay, some, I'll say, inspirational or maybe some next steps that should be taken at the European level. And with this, I think we wrap up. We still have some minutes for some questions, if you have them. Of course, try to direct them at the panel. Okay, we have one question there.
Good morning, Isabel Torres Noronha, Future Ocean Alliance. So concerning the water energy nexus, not only location is important, but to make it renewable, because fresh water is not renewable, in spite of what they say in terms of energy. Why not developing more counter reservoirs and counter dams so that the water can go back and forth? And that it's more, then we are going to the renewable, not just the discharging the water. So why not thinking more about this solution and changing the actual dams? Thank you.
I think, our system that we manage is exactly that. So it's a reversible power system that has, in fact, two dams. A big dam, upper reservoir, and a lower dam, smaller, lower reservoir. One of the projects that's been showcasing here, it's the Giga battery from the Tamega River. It's another system that's exactly that, with three reservoirs. In fact, a closed loop system. It's very, very efficient. One of the other things that we are looking into, really, in Portugal, is upping the dams, because when we're putting just 1 meter or 2 meters in a dam, sometimes we are increasing its capacity by 25-30% with just 1 meter, and most of the times these 1 meter surplus that we have is already built, so we don't have to do anything other than some adaptation on the discharger, on the overflow discharger. And so it's another important thing to look into, use the current dams well, because the environmental impact is already there. We already artificialized that water line. Maybe one good thing to do is to increase the capacity just by increasing the level of the dam.
So for sure we can be more ambitious, let's say, but we are on a good path to reuse water or make it reusable, which is for sure a good point. I'm not sure if we have, are there more questions? You need to be very short. Okay, so I think we would wrap it up. Thank you very much for your insights and for participating in this panel. I think you guys did a great job highlighting some aspects of today and also some potential paths for this water energy nexus. But you also showed us that sometimes we fall in a trap of European mindset, and when we go to other countries, we see it differently. We have different challenges, and we must not forget that. Thank you all for coming, and I'll ask for an applause for our panelists.
O turismo depende da água, nas suas mais variadas formas. Gerir a água com eficiência é uma necessidade para a transição energética e climática, a competitividade das empresas e o bem-estar dos consumidores. Sabia que 87% dos turistas procuram viajar de forma sustentável? E se pudessem escolher o seu alojamento com base na eficiência hídrica? Conheça o Aqua Mais Hotéis da ADEN, Agência para a Energia. Simples, ágil e voluntário, o Aqua Mais Hotéis avalia o nível de eficiência hídrica e identifica medidas de poupança. Para empreendimentos turísticos e alojamento local em fase de projeto, construção, reabilitação ou utilização. O diagnóstico, feito por profissionais qualificados, é um raio-x da eficiência hídrica do seu hotel. O Aqua Mais Hotéis é reconhecido pelo Turismo de Portugal no Plano Turismo Mais Sustentável como referencial nacional de eficiência hídrica e contribui para que Portugal venha a ser um dos destinos mais sustentáveis do mundo. Junte-se ao Aqua Mais Hotéis e torne-se um líder na sustentabilidade com uma gestão hídrica inovadora do seu hotel ou alojamento local. E garanta também uma utilização mais consciente da água, com conta, peso e medida. Aqua Mais, água na medida certa. Saiba mais em aquamais.pt.